The first snow of the season had already swallowed the mountain road when Elias Crane heard the desperate knock on his cabin door. It was late, far too late for anyone to be traveling in the woods, and the wind howled so fiercely that for a moment he thought he imagined it. But then it came again, sharper this time. A frantic pounding, not the knock of someone seeking shelter, but someone begging for it. Elias wiped the sawdust off his hands, set down the broken axe handle he'd been repairing, and moved to the door with cautious steps. Living alone in the mountains had made him careful. Too careful, some said. But when he swung the cabin door open, the sight before him made his breath hitch in his chest. A girl no older than 20 stood shivering violently, her clothes soaked with icy snow, her cheeks red from the cold. And she was pregnant, very pregnant, her arms wrapped protectively around her belly as if shielding the life inside from the brutal wind. "Please," she whispered, her lips trembling. I didn't know where else to go. My brother, he sold me." Elias stared at her, stunned. "Come inside," he said immediately, stepping back. "You're freezing." The girl stumbled across the threshold, barely making it 2 steps before her knees gave out. Elias caught her just in time, lifting her gently and setting her on the old sofa near the wood stove. The fire crackled warmly, and he hurried to throw more logs inside. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Marin," she whispered. "My name is Marin." Elias nodded. "I'm Elias, you're safe now." She closed her eyes, as though his words were a warm blanket wrapping around her. As she warmed up, tears streamed down her cheeks, not from cold, but from the kind of pain that didn't show on the skin. It took time, but eventually she began to talk. Her brother had gotten involved with a group of men who trafficked desperate girls, especially the vulnerable ones. When Marin fell pregnant after a short, failed relationship, her brother saw her not as family but as merchandise. He sold her to a man who claimed he needed a servant for his logging camp. "But when he saw I was almost due," Marin whispered, voice cracking, "he said I wasn't worth the full price. He got angry. I ran when he stopped for fuel. I just ran. I didn't know where I was going." "You came far," Elias said gently. "You must have been walking for hours." "I followed the smoke from your chimney," she murmured. "It felt safe." Elias felt something shift in his chest at that word. Safe. He hadn't felt anyone call him that in years. He brought her soup, a blanket, and a spare shirt of his that practically swallowed her. And as he watched her fall into exhausted sleep, he realized something shocking. For the first time in 15 years since his wife and unborn child died in a winter storm, he wasn't alone anymore. The next morning, Marin woke to the smell of sizzling eggs. "Good morning," Elias said awkwardly, not used to speaking aloud before noon. "I hope you're hungry." Marin sat up slowly. I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," Elias said. He meant it more than she could know. Days passed. Snow piled outside in white, quiet waves. Marin regained color in her cheeks, and Elias found himself listening for her footsteps, waiting for her laughter. She was gentle, soft-spoken, and grateful for every small kindness he offered, things he didn't even think twice about. He taught her how to stack firewood properly. She taught him how to make apple pancakes from the few supplies she found in his cupboards. They fell into an easy rhythm, as though they'd been sharing the cabin for much longer than a few days. One evening, as they sat near the fire, Marin suddenly winced and clutched her belly. "Are you okay?" Elias said quickly. "It's fine," she whispered, breathing through the pain. "Just a contraction. They've been light all day." Elias felt panic rise. "Do you need a doctor? The town's far." "No," she said gently. "I'll tell you when it's time." But that night, Elias couldn't sleep. He sat outside her door, listening to her breathing, terrified of something happening that he didn't know how to help with. But Marin was strong, stronger than anyone gave her credit for. In the coming days, her contractions grew more frequent. Elias did everything he could, heated water, prepared towels, kept the fire burning high. The storm outside raged worse than any in years, making it impossible for him to take her down the mountain even if he wanted to. "I'm scared," Marin whispered one night, clutching his hand tightly. Elias knelt beside her. "You're not alone, I'm right here, I'm not going anywhere." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." The labor lasted hours, long, painful, exhausting hours. But when the storm was at its loudest, when the wind shook the cabin like an angry beast, a new sound replaced it. The cry of a newborn baby. Marin sobbed with relief as Elias gently wrapped the little girl in a clean blanket. He had never held a baby before, not like this, not since the life he lost years ago. But when the tiny child gripped his finger, something inside him shifted forever. "She's beautiful," Elias whispered. Marin smiled weakly. "Her name is Lark, my little Lark." Elias swallowed hard. "Lark," he repeated softly, "welcome to the world." The next few days changed everything. Marin grew stronger each day, though her body was still fragile. Elias cooked, cleaned, held Lark when Marin needed sleep. He fixed the leak in the roof. He shoveled the snow from the path. He stayed by the fire all night to keep the cabin warm. Marin watched him with a softness in her eyes that he didn't know how to handle. "You're good," she whispered one evening, Lark sleeping on her chest. Elias shook his head. "I'm not." "You are," she insisted. "You took in a stranger, you protected me, you saved my child." Elias looked into the fire. "Maybe I just didn't want the mountain to take another life." Marin reached out, placing her hand over his. "Elias," she said softly, "you gave us more than shelter, you gave us hope." He didn't know how to answer that. But things wouldn't stay peaceful for long. 3 weeks after Lark's birth, the storm cleared. For the first time, footprints showed clearly in the snow. Someone had been near the cabin. Elias followed the tracks and found cigarette butts, boot prints too large to be Marin, and a torn scrap of fabric snagged on a branch. He returned to the cabin, jaw tight. "Marin," he said, "has anyone come looking for you?" Her face drained of color. "My brother," she whispered. "He said he'd drag me back if I ever escaped." And he wasn't alone. The man Marin had been sold to would want revenge, and his property. "We need to prepare," Elias said firmly. But Marin stepped forward, her voice trembling. "I don't want to run anymore." Elias paused. "Then we won't." Over the next days, he secured the cabin, chopped extra wood, stocked food, and made sure the old rifle he hadn't touched in years still worked. Marin helped where she could, even though Lark needed her constantly. One night, as the moonlight lit the snow outside, Marin whispered, "Elias, I know I've brought danger to your home." "It's our home now," he said before he could stop himself. Marin's breath hitched. She looked down shyly. "I want that," she whispered. "I want a home, and I want you in it." Elias stepped closer, heart pounding. "Marin, I don't know how to be." "You already are," she said, voice tender. "You're already everything a family needs." Elias felt something crack open in his chest, something he had buried for years. Before he could speak, a loud engine roared outside. Elias grabbed Marin's hand. "Stay behind me." 3 men stepped out of a truck, 2 strangers and her brother. "There you are," her brother snarled. "Time to come back." "Over my dead body," Elias said, stepping forward. The men laughed. "Move aside, Lumberjack, she's ours." Elias lifted the rifle. "She was never yours." Her brother sneered. "You think you can stop us?" "I don't think," Elias said calmly. "I know." And something in his voice, quiet, dangerous, made all 3 men hesitate. "Leave," Elias said, "and never come back. I swear you won't get another warning." For a moment, the world held its breath. Then the men turned, muttering threats but backing away. Something about Elias, the towering frame, the burning determination, told them he meant every word. The truck sped off down the mountain road. Marin collapsed against Elias, sobbing with relief. It's over. It's really over. Elias wrapped his arms around her, holding her as though she'd disappear if he let go. You're safe now, he whispered. You and Lark, you're safe. Marin looked up at him, tears shining in her eyes. Can we stay, she whispered. Not for a night, not for a week, for good. Elias swallowed hard. Marin, this cabin is yours as long as you want it, and so am I. She smiled softly, leaning her forehead against his. Then we're a family now, she whispered. Elias felt Lark's tiny fingers brush against his chest as Marin held her between them. He closed his eyes. A lonely lumberjack no more. He had been given something far greater than he ever expected. A home, a child, and the woman who saved him as much as he saved her. The mountains were silent, peaceful again. Inside the cabin, 3 heartbeats blended into one rhythm. A family, unexpected, imperfect, but theirs. And this time, Elias vowed he would never let the storm take them. Winter clung stubbornly to the mountains, refusing to release its grip. But inside the cabin, warmth grew in ways Elias had never imagined possible. The fireplace glowed softly, casting orange light over the wooden walls, and in the rocking chair Marin gently swayed with Lark on her chest, humming a tune so soft even the flames seemed to listen. Elias stood in the doorway, quietly watching them. He never said it aloud, but every day he woke up terrified that he would open his eyes and find them gone, that all of this was just a dream he wasn't allowed to keep. He cleared his throat lightly. How's she doing? Marin smiled, brushing a curl from the baby's forehead. She sleeps better on me than anywhere else. She sleeps better on you, Elias said with a faint smile, because she knows you're home. The word still felt fragile on his tongue, home, but every day it felt a little stronger. Marin looked up at him with eyes full of gratitude and something deeper, something Elias wasn't sure he understood completely. You made this home, Elias. You gave us a place to breathe. Elias felt heat rise in his cheeks. He looked away, pretending to adjust the curtains. It was nothing. No, Marin whispered, it was everything. For the first time in years, silence between 2 people didn't feel heavy, it felt full. But peace is a fragile thing in the mountains. 3 days after her brother fled down the road, Elias noticed something unsettling, tracks in the snow again. Not as close as last time, but closer than they should have been. He didn't tell Marin at first. She'd been through enough. But that night, as they ate stew at the small wooden table, she watched him with a look too perceptive to ignore. You're worried about something, she said. Elias hesitated, then nodded. Tracks again, only one set this time, someone watching, not approaching. Marin swallowed hard. My brother. Maybe, Elias replied, or maybe the man he sold you to. Marin's face paled. Elias, I can't go back, I won't survive it. He reached across the table and covered her hand with his. You won't go anywhere, I promise you that. I won't let anyone touch you or Lark. Marin's voice trembled. Why are you risking so much for us? Elias met her gaze, his voice rough with truth. Because I know what it's like to lose the people you love. I won't lose you, not now, not ever. Marin's breath caught, her cheeks warming as she lowered her gaze. But Lark let out a tiny squeak, breaking the tension. Elias chuckled softly. You hungry again, little bird? Life continued like that for weeks, quiet, tender, but shadowed by the unseen threat outside. Then one morning in early spring, everything changed. Elias had gone out to split firewood. The snow was melting, dripping from the branches in rhythmic, soft drops. The forest felt alive, hopeful. He had half a log on the chopping block when he heard footsteps behind him. He spun around instantly, axe in hand. A man stood at the edge of the trees, Marin's brother. But he was alone. Easy there, the man said, raising his hands. I didn't come to fight. Elias did lower the axe. The man looked thinner than before, his eyes hollow and bruised. Look, I came because I don't have anywhere else to go. Those men I worked with, they found out I helped her escape. They're after me now. They want revenge. Elias narrowed his eyes. You expect sympathy. No, her brother said quietly. Just help, please. Elias almost refused instantly, but something in the man's face, the fear, the desperation gave him pause. He didn't trust him, but he sensed the truth in his trembling voice. Before Elias could answer, Marin stepped outside with Lark in her arms. She froze. Her brother's eyes softened. Marin, I'm sorry. I didn't know how far things had gone. I swear I never wanted you hurt. Marin stood perfectly still, her voice firm despite her shaking hands. You sold me. You didn't protect me. You are the reason I almost died out there. Her brother's lip trembled. I know, and I wish I could take it back. I want to make it right. Elias stepped between them. Say what you came to say. Her brother looked at the ground. They're coming. The men, they plan to take Marin and the baby and kill anyone who gets in the way. They'll be here by tomorrow. The world seemed to stop. Marin clutched Lark tightly. Elias felt his heartbeat slam against his ribs. Then we prepare, Elias said calmly. Her brother blinked. You're going to fight them. Yes. Her brother swallowed. Then let me help. Elias didn't trust him. He would never fully trust him, but he saw the sincerity in his eyes, the regret, the fear. He wasn't an enemy anymore. He was a scared man who made unforgivable choices. Elias nodded once. Help me board the windows. For the rest of the day, the three of them worked. Elias reinforced the doors, set traps along the paths, and sharpened every tool that could be used as a weapon. Marin prepared food, checked on Lark, and gathered courage she never knew she had. At sunset, the mountains glowed pink and gold. Marin stepped outside where Elias stood sharpening his axe. Elias, she whispered. He turned. Marin stepped closer, her eyes shimmering. If something happens tomorrow, if something happens to you, I need you to know something. Elias frowned softly. Nothing is going to happen to me. But if it does, Marin swallowed. You saved me. You saved Lark. You gave us more love and safety than I ever had in my whole life. You taught me what a real home feels like. Elias felt his heart ache. Marin. She touched his chest gently. I love you, Elias. He froze. Her hand trembled. It's okay if you don't feel the same, but... Before she could finish, Elias pulled her into his arms, holding her close enough that he felt her heartbeat against his. I love you too, he whispered into her hair. I've loved you since the moment you trusted me with your fear. I just never thought I deserved it. Marin's breath shuddered. You deserve everything. They stood there in the fading light, as Lark cooed softly in Marin's arms, like the forest itself was whispering its blessing over them.